So in the last couple of days, Sony has released a new version of the Sony ZVE10, the ZV-E10 II. Let's talk about it. Hey, if you don't know me, my name is Thomas. I started a YouTube channel a couple of years ago, mainly about the Sony ZVE10, and it has been the main camera that has been popular on this channel. And it's been one of the most popular cameras ever made, being the #1 seller in Japan and in many other places. It's a very, very popular camera. And recently, Sony released a Mark II of this camera, and it has a lot of people talking about whether it is a worthy successor to the very popular Sony ZVE10. Now, if you're interested in a ZVE10 or a ZVE10 Mark II, do hit the subscribe button, because once I hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away either a ZVE10 with a lens or a ZVE10 Mark II, both going to be around the value of $1,000, whichever one you would prefer. So if you want to be entered into that giveaway, once I hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to be making a video offering that giveaway. So check that one out if you're interested in one of these cameras. So if you've seen other videos about this and you're a beginner and you're looking to see whether the ZVE10 Mark II is going to be right for you, or maybe you should just buy the older version of the ZVE10, I hope this video is helpful to you. We're going to talk about the specs and the mechanics of the new ZVE10. We're going to look at some of the complaints that people have on YouTube about the ZVE10 Mark II and explain why they might be problems for certain people and maybe who they're not problems for. There's a lot of information being thrown out there and a lot of, lots of camera specs out there about this new camera. So we're just going to go through these and explain them a little bit. All right, first up, in my opinion, one of the best things about this new camera is that it has done away with these terrible little NPFW50 batteries, and it is replacing with the bigger and better Z100 batteries. In my book, that's an all-around win, much better battery, lasts a whole lot longer, and it's more consistent across all of their other cameras. So if you have multiple cameras, like maybe an FX30, an A6700, or any of their full-frame cameras, and you're looking at picking up the ZVE10 Mark II, you don't have to get a different battery type. Now, the ZVE10 Mark II actually has basically the same sensor and image as the FX30, which is the one that you're watching right now, which is also the same as the A6700, which is a very, very good camera, and honestly one of the best cameras for the money. So it is a great sensor, right? You can get a fantastic image out of that sensor. These, the FX30 and the A6700 are incredibly popular cameras that can produce a great image. One of the things that people talk about with that sensor in particular is the ability to record 10-bit. So this, the FX30, the A6700, and now the ZVE10 Mark II can all record in 10-bit color. Now, if you haven't heard of 10-bit color before, basically it is a codec or a file type that can contain a lot more color information. And when we say color information, that just basically means that it can capture more details of color. So whenever you color grade your footage, you're not going to get as much of that banding or like the gradient of the color on the wall or wherever it might be is much smoother. You'll sometimes see this in sunsets in 8-bit color, that you'll get that sort of jumping of color as you go from a nice warm orange at the center to the light blue at the edge. It's not a smooth gradient. 10-bit color or above is going to have much smoother gradient, which just overall lends to a more pleasing image. It also has much higher bit rate, up to, I believe it's like 600, so the ZV-10's capped at 100. That just means you got a lot more information to your file. That is going to mean that the files are going to be much larger, but also that they're going to have more data to them, meaning that they're probably going to come out a little bit sharper, a little bit more detailed, and there's going to be less problems along with the image. It's not going to fall apart quite as easily like something that you might get out of the 8-bit codec in the ZVE10. Now, the camera doesn't force you to shoot in 10-bit at 600 megabits. It gives you all the options. So if you would rather have smaller file sizes and deal with a smaller codec that's going to be easier to manage on your computer because it's a smaller, more compressed image, you can still shoot with 8-bit if you'd like. Another couple of upgrades that it's had, the microphone on the camera has been upgraded to the same one from the ZVE1, which is apparently a lot better. I still recommend get an external microphone. It's going to make a big difference. So for me, that's a bit of a mute point, but if you are the type of person who just wants to stick a lens on your camera, hit record, and not need to worry about any other things like other microphones, the microphone is going to be better than that of the ZVE10. Rolling shutter performance is a lot better. That means whenever you're moving the camera, the edges and the lines don't go all wobbly. A camera captures its image from top to bottom, and it kind of scrolls like this. The faster it's able to scroll, the more straight all the lines are when you're moving. You're not capturing all the movement of the sensor readout, so it's going to be a better performer for rolling shutter because it's got that faster readout. Now, all of this combined actually causes a problem for the ZVE10 Mark II, which is basically to say that this style of camera body, right, this small, compact, plasticky kind of body, is still trying to put out the same amount of work as something like the FX30, which has a built-in fan, different materials used to sort of try and dissipate that heat, and this camera never overheats. The ZVE10 Mark II, the body is smaller and and it's still trying to do the same amount, so it's producing a lot more heat, but doesn't have the fan inside it, which causes it to overheat much quicker than other cameras might. Now, the overheating may be a problem for you. It depends on what it is that you're shooting. If you're trying to film long sequences of 4K 60, then your camera will overheat, and you probably shouldn't buy this. But what I'd say about that is, if you are the type of person that is going to need 4K 60 and to be able to record for 30 minutes to an hour at a time, maybe for something like weddings, you probably shouldn't be buying a vlogger style camera. You should invest in an FX30, it's designed for that. What Sony are doing with a lot of their different camera options, like FX30, the A6700, and now the ZVE10 Mark II, yes, they all share the same sensor, and yes, they all share the same image quality, but they are designed for different target audiences. FX30 is designed for professional videographers. A6700 is designed for photographers, as it is a photo first camera. And the ZVE10 Mark II is designed for content creators. So if you fit into the camp of content creator, you may be doing TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, or you have a business and you're just trying to get some quick and easy footage, you're not filming for long periods of time, and you're just trying to get short clips, the ZVE10 Mark II will be a fantastic camera for you. You won't experience it overheating. A lot of other people had the same complaint about the A6700, saying that it was going to overheat drastically. I use this almost every day. I've never had it overheat, but that's because I'm not using it to the capacity that would cause it to overheat. So just ask yourself what your use case is. If your use case of the camera will cause it to overheat, don't get it. Get the FX30 instead. I realize there's a big price jump, but for the people who are needing the kind of capabilities that the FX30 can provide, should be charging more money for their clients and are using it to make more money, so they should be able to justify buying a more expensive camera. The ZVE10 line, on the other hand, it's for YouTubers, for content creators, and it's a beginner style camera. That's why the price point is $800 below the FX30, but it is going to have some drawbacks along the way. Now, one area that they cut in the new camera, the ZVE10 Mark II, that you used to be able to have in the original ZVE10, is the mechanical shutter. So when you take a photo, you'll notice that the shutter closes and opens. The new camera only has an electronic shutter. Now, for video users, that's fine. You're not going to use a mechanical shutter for video. For photography though, that's where you might suffer. If you don't have the mechanical shutter and you're relying only on the electronic shutter, you may experience more banding or problems with lighting. But again, if you're just doing video, it's totally fine. You don't need to worry about the mechanical shutter. Most video first cameras don't have mechanical shutters anyway. But again, if you are a photographer first, and you do a little bit of video, I probably wouldn't recommend the ZVE10 line. You're going to want to look at the A6700. And the last thing is that I've seen people complain about is that it doesn't have IBIS. This one does not have IBIS either. That's fine. I think Sony had to cut out certain features from a camera like the A6700 or the FX30 to make this camera cheaper. Again, they're only charging $1,000 for it. But this is actually where my worry or my concern about this new camera comes in. Is the camera and the image that you can get out of this camera worth $1,000? Absolutely. I think $1,000 is a fantastic price for a camera that is going to be great for YouTubers, with the Sony E-mount, great image quality that you can get out of the FX30, with a couple of small drawbacks along the way that might not affect most people. What made the Sony ZVE10 so popular and so worth buying was the price point. This was only like $700 brand new. And yes, it's not as good as something like an FX30, but $700 is a really, really desirable price point for a beginner camera. There's not much else on the market around that price point. So with the ZVE10 Mark II coming out, and yes, it offers a whole lot more as far as image quality goes, for, you know, $1,000, I still think it's worth the money, but I would be surprised if it sells as well as the original ZVE10. It's $300 more expensive than the original one, so for ZVE10 users looking to upgrade, I think it's a worthy upgrade. For people who are looking to buy their first camera, I still think they're going to be looking around that $700 price point. My problem is, I don't think people want to spend $1,000 on a beginner camera. I still think it's quite high. What I expected them to do was actually to offer us less for less money. And yes, they made a few cuts, you know, they cut the mechanical shutter and stuff like that. And yes, they're saving money in ways that they can, and it is worth the money. I just think that they would sell more if they charged less and even offered less along the way. I don't think we needed all intro recording up to 600 megabits per second. I don't think a vlogging camera needed that. Is it nice to have as a videographer? Absolutely, yes it is. And will people use it? Probably, because it's available. but I think they could sell more cameras if they stuck to around that $700 or $800 price point and offered us less in the camera, because again, this is the beginner camera, the one to go for when you're buying a new camera, and jumping up to that $1,000 price point is a bit more of a jump for a lot of beginners who are looking to buy their first camera. I'm not saying it's not worth $1,000. I really do think it is worth $1,000. It's very much worth the price point that they've put at it, but I just don't know if it's going to sell as well. But that's up to Sony. Again, that's you know, it's not my job to sell cameras for Sony. You know, I just think they would have been better off offering us a little bit less for less money. So obviously I'm going to pick up one of these cameras. It's going to be fun to rig it out. It's going to be fun to play around with it, because I think you can get some great footage out of the new Sony ZVE10 Mark II, but I want to know what you think. Do you think it's a worthwhile camera investing in if you're a beginner, or is it going to be better for people who maybe have a ZVE10 and want to upgrade? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment down below, hit the like button if you've enjoyed the video, or maybe even subscribe as we continue to build this channel. I appreciate all of you for doing so, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.